We're now listening to the Dee Hankins Show. Life, curveballs, home runs, the Dee Hankins Show. Are you ready? Let's go.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Dee Hankins Show, where we talk about life, help you with your curveballs, and celebrate your home runs. For the last, I don't even know how long now, we have really focused on breaking down the 3-bucket philosophy, especially in the last few weeks. We've talked about a deep dive into my choices, bucket number 1, your seat of power. Others' choices, bucket number 2, where you have influence but no control. And then obviously we ended with bucket number 3, the acts of God, natural disasters, aka the uncontrollables. Today, we talk about the most dangerous thing that you can do when applying the 3-bucket philosophy to your life, and that is mixing your buckets. Specifically, how mixing my choices with others' choices leads to blame. So this is episode 26, Don't Mix Your Buckets, part 1. Let's get into it. Every one of us has built a jail with our own words. I call it the because prison, and it's built one sentence at a time by justifying our state based on someone else. It goes a little something like this. I'm late because my mom didn't wake me up. I'm broke because my clients are cheap. No one wants to visit my store. I lost my temper because he disrespected me. That little word because, actually in this philosophy, that word is huge. That word because becomes the lock on your doors. When you start linking your actions, reactions, and behavior to others, you might as well just be like, yo, here's control over my life. Take it. Theoretically, what you're saying is that my problems, or the cause of my problems, are in bucket number 2. Therefore, the solution to my problems are in somebody else's choices as well. As long as you let their actions dictate your responses, you will forever be a puppet. You remain tied to those strings as long as you remain in that prison. And in 2026, we're starting to see more and more people get out of their seat of power and point the finger at other people's choices and decisions, saying it's because of them that I fill in the blank. So how do we get out of that prison? Well, that is a great question. To get out of the because prison, we have to define 2 things very clearly: blame and responsibility. Blame is placing fault on others' choices to justify your my choice actions. It's an exit strategy to avoid the discomfort of ownership. Now, when I say discomfort of ownership on this show, I describe ownership as taking, full responsibility. It's a really jagged pill that you have to swallow. And once you take this pill, right, red pill, blue pill, Neo Matrix, once you take this pill of ownership, you lose your right to play victim. I have stated multiple times that the hardest thing to do for us as human beings is to look into the mirror and take full responsibility for where we're at in life. And when you take ownership, that's exactly what you're doing. And also understanding that it's easier to be a victim. It's so easy to be a victim and say, oh, woe is me, and it's because of everything else that I'm not here. It's easy to do that because being a victim, there's no work to do. But an owner has to take responsibility. An owner has to go back to the drawing board when things go awry. Right? Like when you're looking for a job, it's nothing to fill out an application or go into an interview. That's the easy part. Or to just be like, I don't like this job, I'm walking out the door. The owner can't do that. The owner has to go, okay, what are our hiring practices? We need to do this. We need to put this in order. We need to put this in place. The owner is responsible for how the ship goes, and you are the owner of your life. And that's where responsibility comes in. Responsibility means taking ownership of the choices that I make, my choices, regardless of the circumstances or what other people decide to do. This is the only way to reclaim your power. I say that constantly. I'm sounding like a broken record, but it's true. It's the only way to reclaim your power, your God-given authority. And to be honest, now that I say this out loud, to be honest, I know that when I talk about responsibility, most people have a difficult time accepting that because you think it means letting the other person off of the hook. You think it's about saying the other person was right. And that's the total opposite. It's really saying that you're not in control. No matter what you say, how hard you scream, what words you use, what isms you use, you're not in control. I am the master of this ship, and you can't get on no matter how much you call for the manager, no matter how much you cry and kick or drop F-bombs or tell my boat it's ugly or blah, 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 this and that. No matter what you do, I take full responsibility for what happens. Therefore, my response belongs to me and your response belongs to you. And that's that. Now, I want to look at some real life scenarios to really help you grasp this concept, okay? And these are scenarios that I've seen on Instagram, personal stories, things that I've heard from come out of people's mouth throughout my career. So this is real life situations in which happen. And we'll break these down into 4 categories. We'll break these down into the facts. We'll break these down into the blame response, reality of the blame response, and how to shift it and take responsibility. Okay. So for instance, a road rage incident, true story. I flipped my car because this idiot cut me off. And so what happened was a car did cut a particular car off on the highway. And this person decided I'm going to get back at this person and do the exact same thing. And then they flipped over their car. And when they flipped over their car and got into it's not funny, but when they flipped over the car and got into a car accident, they blamed the other driver for them flipping their car. So these are the facts. You did get cut off. That's a fact, okay? The blame is I got into a wreck because you flipped me off, all right? The reality is their reckless driving is their choice, right? It's still dangerous, but their choice. They decided to do that. You can't control that. You chose to be aggressive and to get back at them. And because you decided to get back at them, you caused you're responsible for your accident. So the responsibility choice here would be to say he was driving like a fool. Facts. But I chose to trade my physical safety to justify my reaction and to get back at this person to prove that you can't cut me off. And therefore, I caused my wreck. That's taking full responsibility. How many people end up in jail? Because they blame, they pointed the finger, they mixed their buckets, all right? Real case scenarios. Dude disrespects my hood. We get into an altercation. I'm losing. I pull out my gun. I shoot him. Facts. This person disrespected you. Those are the facts of the matter, okay? Blame in response. Man, I'm only in prison because he disrespected my hood. I'm in prison because he started something, okay? That is the blame response. The reality is you allowed this person's words to affect you so deeply that you retaliated out of aggression and chose to trade years of your life to justify your action. The responsibility there is to go, you know what? That's exactly what I did. I should have walked away, but I didn't. I let this dude's words affect me. I started an altercation. I could not finish this altercation because remember, this guy was losing. So I reached for my gun and I shot this person. And now that is why I'm in prison. And people are in jail for the rest of their life for situations like this. People have lost their lives for situations like this because we refuse to take responsibility because we're mixing up our buckets. Right. And last one is like the relationship one, man. Divorces in California, where I'm from, is at an all-time high. I've been to family court before. I've listened to couples talk in my seminars, in my in my speaking engagements, my keynotes. I've sat down with people at dinner. I've probably also been in this category before where I'm constantly mixing my buckets. And this is one that's recently off the press. Okay. So I was watching a podcast episode and this came up and the person said, I cheated on my spouse because she makes me feel lonely. I cheated because my spouse neglects me and makes me feel lonely. Okay. Now, facts. You feel lonely. Those are the facts. All right. When you're at home or when you're around your spouse, you feel lonely. That is true. That is how you feel. That is your reality. And that is facts. Okay. The blame is because I cheated because prison. She neglects me and makes me feel lonely. Okay. That's the blame response. The responsibility response is my marriage is in a hard spot and I chose to trade my integrity to justify my reaction. And I see this all the time via social media. I see this all the time in, like one-on-ones. Shoot, man. To be honest with you, I had a relationship for years where I was mixing my bucket and I was, constantly blaming this person, constantly blaming this person. And then when I started taking full ownership, like my world view just opened up and was just like, dude, what was my role in this? And things just started to kind of clear up. Forgiveness started to take place when I started to understand, like, dang, I played a role in this too, So it helps, man. So these are situations, real life situations, and you may be thinking, and when you hit, I did this because, that's a sign that you're mixing the buckets. But we'll get back into that in a second. When you choose to blame, you're not only making a mistake, but you're choosing to carry the weight of something that doesn't belong to you. Every time you blame someone else for your reactions, you are physically strapping on their bad choices on your back, right? Think about the physical reactions that happen within your bodies when you start to blame somebody else, when you get mad at somebody else. The heat that rises from your chest, that gut-wrenching feeling in your stomach, when you're stressed about somebody else's delays, like the physical tax that you have to pay for mixing your buckets, you're carrying cortisol and stress and exhaustion of their behavior in your body. Really think about that for a second. And taking responsibility is the only thing that sets you free from that burden. I know I'm constantly saying it, but it's true. Like right now, I just want you to think about where you're at. What are you stressing over? What coworker are you stressing over? What person for years have you been holding grudges and blaming them for the reason why you're in this and that? Like, what have you been carrying for you? How many years of your life have been shaved off because you keep carrying the weight of somebody else's decisions that happened years ago? Think about that. When you take responsibility for my choices and my choices only, okay, you stop acting as a warehouse and storing other people's decisions and other people's garbage. You stop being a puppet and you start being at peace. I haven't said that word in a long time, but man, peace, it just sounds good. You do. You stop being a puppet, you start being at peace. You go, you know what? You can say what you want. And you can do what you want because you can't control that. Remember, you can only influence, and you can do that. And I'm going to have to deal with that. But if I do react, which you have the choice to do, if I do react, own it, right? I slapped you, dog, because I chose to, and now I got to deal with the consequences. Or I'm not even going to respond to this person, and I'm going to have to deal with the consequences. And the consequences of that might be that they don't shut up, that they don't talk. But regardless, if you smack them or not, you can't control that. At a conference not too long ago, I was telling some kids, oh, if I talked about, I was doing this example, if I talk about your mom who you loved and then you beat me up, and I come back next week and I talk about your mom again, and then you beat me up, and then somebody else goes, oh, well, I'm going to talk about his mom too. You're going to spend your life beating people up, and you don't have that. And then what if you get somebody bigger? Like one of the examples I use, what if, Mike Tyson or one of these new boxers comes in and they talk about your mom. You're going to beat them up too? No, you're going to get your mom talked about, and you're going to get beat up in the same place. And it's just like, why? People are going to say things based on what they're feeling, their emotions, their reactions, what they had on going that day. And to protect your peace, you just have to take full ownership. This is why this 3-bucket philosophy is so important. When somebody starts popping out the mouth, now, again, you can influence them. You can say, hey, man, just, leave my mom out of this. And I want people to understand that, right? Stop putting your life in jeopardy because people don't know how to control their choices, right? Now, if everybody in the world, and this seems like a fantasy, but if everybody in the world took full responsibility over their choices, over their buckets, and decided to try to do the best they can to make the best decisions they can, we'd be a better place. But some people live in bucket number 2. Some people live in the because prison. They got a life sentence in the because prison. They got a life sentence in trying to control things that they can't control. And you have to understand it is essential for you to master the 3-bucket philosophy so you don't waste my bucket energy, finite energy, on bucket number 2 and bucket number 3 problems. So if you're listening, let me ask you something. Who are you currently blaming for your situation? Whose bucket are you trying to control as you leave your own seat of power? Are you going to keep letting people dictate your own peace, your own health, your own future? If you're ready to stop being a puppet to others' choices, to bucket number 2 problems, I'm here to help. Not only with this podcast, but as you know, I travel the country installing the Potential Protocol, a self-regulating operating system designed to eliminate blame and build absolute leaders. If you or your team is stuck in the because prison and they can't get out, I can help them get back into their seat of power. So visit www.deehankins.com to learn more about my workshops, to learn more about my keynotes, to learn more about my professional development, and to learn more about my student development programs. And for all my general listeners out there, do me a favor. Share the show, leave a review, leave a comment, leave a like. It's a small act that does a big deal for my podcast to get these life-changing frameworks out there into the real world. And thank you so much for tuning in every single week and listening to my show. So stop mixing your buckets, and remember, life throws curveballs, but even curveballs can be hit for home runs.
Life throws curveballs, but even curveballs can be hit for home runs. Oh, life those curveballs, but even curveballs can be hit for